This content is for informational purposes only. You should not construe any such information or other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. Nothing contained on here constitutes a solicitation, recommendation, endorsement, or offer by Draper Goren Holm or any third-party service provider to buy or sell any securities or other financial instruments whatsoever.
Hey everyone, it is me. We are here. Joseph is here too. Say hi, Joseph.
Hey, what's up?
Boom, boom, boom. We're recording.
Good morning, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
I am recording this on the computer now.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Boom. All right. It says it's recording. Boom, 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 boom. I am apparently recording.
The entire bottle of control. They're all exactly the same.
Crypto art, and then what it really is an NFT.
Wow. Eddie wants to slap the bag.
So this is the next best thing.
DeFi is going to be a bubble.
It's provably scarce.
With Mad Dog.
Crypto, gold, and silver.
Transparent substance.
Take my money, start a war with it.
Without further ado.
Cheers to you, brother.
Get shit done.
Because the system has to collapse before that.
Cheers, I feel much better now.
Cheers.
Wow, that was heavy.
Boom. Welcome to Blockchain and Booze number 151. So very stoked that we're over the 150 mark, almost at the 3-year mark, which is pretty radical. I'm excited today. We've got Joe Saz on and Mohsin from Accrue. Joe has his own company. We're going to get to know him because it's his first time on. Before we jump in, I want to tell anyone watching on the Lunar Crush live stream, thanks to Lunar Crush, and on YouTube or anywhere else, if you go to blockchainbooze.io, it'll redirect you to the DGH events website where if you sign in, you'll be able to chat with some of the community members while we're live. And then afterwards, you can turn on your camera and hang out with the community. It's a fun hang session. Depending on the week, different crew is hanging, different people, and it's been pretty great. We've got to meet a lot of amazing folks in that chat and invested in a few companies and things like that because we met them there, or the companies came together and met each other in the chat and created something, which is even cooler. But cheers, everyone.
Salud.
Salud. So I'm excited about this one because we were going to talk security tokens. We had a fourth guest or a fourth person who was going to be hanging with us and ultimately couldn't make it, but it's still going to be an awesome chat because security tokens are a great topic. We have our own security token summit actually coming up in June in New York, and so it'll be a fun one. But before we jump in, Joe, welcome to Blockchain and Booze. Welcome for your first time on. Would love to get the background on you and how you got into this crazy space, and then maybe we'll jump into is it Mbili?
Yeah,
Mbili. Sure. Also your company. After we learn about you.
Yeah. So first off, thank you very much for having me on. It's a pleasure to meet both you and Mohsin. Look forward to doing that over the course of the show, of course. And I will make a long story short. We all have an interesting journey in crypto, and I'll just try to hit some bullet points here. But I got into crypto full-time in 2017, and I had quit my job. I hated my life, and I just really needed to do something else. And I'm one of the people that got involved, got lucky with a couple pumps, and decided to make it a life. And
What were you doing pre-crypto, if you don't mind sharing?
I was a workers' compensation claims examiner.
Yeah, that could be a tough time. Like that, nobody's happy, right? On both sides of that.
In fact, not only is no one happy, but everyone's almost angry all the time. So I hated my life, and again, I could tell you some interesting stuff. The signs were speaking to me, saying if you don't leave this place, you're gonna die here, and that's full of regret for sure. So I took the leap of faith. I got into crypto, put some money in, and got lucky, like so many others. But I invented over the course of many months and years order book analysis. I decided if I stare at this long enough, I'm going to figure it out. So I just every day just stared at the screen for hours, days in a row, took notes, took screenshots, became a pretty decent trader, had my own show. I got hired by Block TV. Traders Take was my show on there. Made some
Block TV in Israel.
Yes, correct.
Nice. They were great. It sucks that they didn't make it through that a previous cycle, but I did a few interviews with them remotely, and then I got lucky that I happened to be in Israel. And Ziv, one of the friends of Blockchain and Booze, he's the CEO of a company called Symmetria now. He's based in Israel. He was friends with them, and he got me to come in on my trip to Israel. I was only there for like 4 days. I think I went into their studio like 3 times in the 4 days. Basically, it was like a morning ritual every day while I was there. It was pretty great. We had a lot of fun with them. They were awesome.
Yeah, beautiful people, good crew, and it was unfortunate. I think things just spun around. It's a tough time, but. So I was there for quite a bit, pretty much I started writing articles for them, and then I was on their show Traders Take until things ended. And then I, just kept trading and invented, like I said, now they're called SAS signals, and you can see my signals, and they're actually pretty darn good. I've been making some good calls in the market. It's been quite a wonderful experience, especially since we bottomed out there in, early mid-January. So things have been going pretty well. Markets are spinning up. I think, we all have reasons to smile right now, especially after a day like today, right?
I spend my day in early stage startups. I have personally, I always tell everyone take your profits in Bitcoin and ETH, and sometimes I say Tezos as well. But I don't trade on a regular basis. Like my business every day is to invest in early stage companies who are going to be killing it 10 years from now. And so I pay attention to it for the fun of it. And I was mostly offline today, but earlier, everyone knows I've got the OG logo right here. But everyone knows I'm conflicted because we're investors in Lunar Crush. I'm a Lunar Crush shill, like on every single episode of the show, because they stream this, but also because I'm obsessed with Lunar Crush. So I did check into Lunar Crush earlier and was super stoked that Bitcoin went way beyond. I think I saw this morning, somebody was like, Bitcoin's at 23K. And I was like, holy shit, that's cool. And then all of a sudden, I don't know, maybe that was yesterday, whenever that was. But then earlier, I literally just looked at it a minute or two ago, and we were at, I think we were at 24K, right?
Yeah, we blew past a little bit there.
Hold on, let me go to my watch list here. Stars. Yeah. Way past. We're at 24,644. Look at that chart, by the way. I mean, even through the blurriness, you can see it's up. It's straight up. I'm looking at the 1 week chart, so it definitely looks straight up.
This is, do you see all that colors underneath the candles right there? That was in your bottom is in.
By the way, are you using TradingView?
I don't use TradingView. TradingView doesn't have any data that extracts from order books. I need a trade history. I need a depth chart. I need I literally, the way I trade is based on real-time information. I don't care what a moving average is telling me based on a year's past data. I don't care what a MACD or maybe RSI, but I don't really find technical analysis to be the most important thing to pay attention to. It's the psychology of the market participants that is the most important thing to pay attention to. And that is quite visible through something like the order book and the trade history. But you see the actual orders going through, where are people placing their bids and their asks. And that's a bit of information, almost like you're playing Call of Duty or something. You're looking at the player versus player element live in real time and seeing the actual emotion. Someone just sold a 20 pack of Bitcoin. What does that do to the market?
I should have put Joe, or I thought we were going to focus on security tokens, but we're going to end up doing all sorts of talk. But we will talk security tokens because Mohsin is here too. But I should have got Joe or John from Lunar Crush and put them in a headlock and brought them here too, because we've got to get you. So right now, I'm trying to think. And when I said TradingView, I know you can ingest some of the Lunar Crush data there, but Crypto Watch also has their data now, and on Coinbase too. Their data is on every page, but it's more like the informational pages. It's not like charts and stuff like that. But you would love it because and I promise everyone listening, I'm not gonna shill it too much longer, but the thing that's really cool about it, because I'm not a trader and I've given shit to people who do the like kind of very surface technical analysis online, and it's partly me poking at something I don't fully understand either, because I'm not a trader and I never put in the time and effort the way that you and some other people who are experts at these things do. And I appreciate what you're saying when you say the psychology of the market right now, because the one most important thing I look at on Lunar Crush is when you look at like the alt rank and you mix it with their like galaxy score, all their proprietary scoring, but you look at the sentiment and what piece of news is driving for any certain thing, all that stuff is important. But for me, the absolute most important metric, everybody looks at social dominance and social volume. So social dominance is what percentage of the people that are talking about crypto right now are talking about this coin. So is this coin percentage wise getting more of the action right now? So that's important. And social volume is important because it's just, there's more volume of people discussing, of not people discussing this coin, but more volume of articles and things about this coin happening right now. To me, the most important metric is one that is called social contributors, where it actually filters out the bots and spammers, because we realize that a lot of the spam that looks like a bot isn't actually a bot. You know, people that are signing up for crypto giveaways and random things like that, that don't actually count to the real sentiment of what's going on. They filter that out. And then you can see the actual number of people who are discussing crypto or discussing Bitcoin on the internet today. And you can know if it's more people than yesterday or less people than yesterday. And to me, if you see a positive article of like, oh shit, something is cool, and now you're seeing that 100% more people are discussing Bitcoin today on the internet than yesterday, that's a signal to me. Mm-hmm. And if you ingest it fast enough, you can trade on it, right? And that's what's pretty cool to me. And it is totally psychological, but from a different place. You're looking at it from the orders. And I feel like you, an expert, and maybe someone who creates bots and hedge funds could look at that and trade on it. But to me, that's almost like a little too late, because the second I see that the order books are happening, I'm probably late to the game. If I can catch it before everyone goes to make their trades, then maybe there's even more to it. I don't know. You actively trade, so you would be able to tell me better. I just try to accumulate my favorite coins and just keep doing it forever.
Well, that's the smartest thing. That's the way to win, right? If you trade, that's if you have 95% chance to fail. So it's better to buy and hold.
Yeah.
Depending on when you came in. And you know what? One of the things that I tell people to do, and I can't wait for it to be even more streamlined, is that I tell people, when you get an NFT or when you make some big trade or some crazy colossal move that's kind of ridiculous, like making money off an NFT, because it's just insane that we get to do that sometimes. I tell people, throw half of it in one of the, in that one coin that, like I said, the savings account, the Bitcoin or the ETH or whatever, and then take the rest and keep gambling or whatever. What I really want to do is to tell people to throw their gains into some real assets like real estate. And that's what Accrue is doing with security tokens and what you're doing. So Mohsin, before we really dive in, give everyone your background, because it's been a couple months on blockchain and booze.
Absolutely. So unlike Joe, you're more on the crypto side. I'm more all of the real estate guy, right? So born and brought up in a real estate family, worked in real estate all my life, and ended up learning more about blockchain, and then learning more about using smart contracts and how we could create a multi-token architecture that could really streamline the real estate transaction process and make it more accessible, as well as solve for liquidity in this traditionally illiquid asset class. So I used to run a small friends and family fund, as well as manage our family office. Our family office's real estate allocations in the US. We were invested in real estate in Asia, Africa, and Europe up until 2008. And I expanded into the US market starting in 2009 after I went to HBS and moved to LA. So, just a little south of where Alon is, right? So, but ended up moving into Cincinnati in 2014, looking for better cash yields in tertiary markets, and eventually stumbled on to everything that we could build on chain. My first and only investment on the crypto side was back in October 2013 when Bitcoin was at its all-time high of $1,200 and some dollars. That was the first one. The first time that I bought my first Bitcoin.
That's early. That's crazy. That was earlier than most. Do you have proof? Can you prove it?
You know what? It was just the one Bitcoin. I'm sure I can prove it, but I'm sure we can take the transaction back to the hardware wallets and whatnot. But that was back in New York. I remember it's like one of our family friends like, oh yeah, you need to. There's this crazy thing. It went all the way up from $900 to $1,200, and it's going all the way. It's like, all right, just because you're saying it, I'm gonna put about $1,000 in it. We walked somewhere and I handed someone $1,000, and they were able to transfer it over on into this new USB like wallet that my friend had got for me at that point or something. It's like, all right, you've got to remember the codes on it. It's like, all right. Luckily, I was able to transfer it into one of my other wallets in time to a point where I didn't lose anything on it. So still have it. But start building a crew back in 2018 when I learned about what blockchain could really work like as a decentralized ledger. It was all about how do we add efficiencies in the real estate transactions, and how do we do it in a legal manner? How do we work within the regulatory framework? I ended up going to Site Business School at Oxford, where the program director was David Schreier, who ended up joining as a digital assets advisor for FINRA in 2019, which is how we were able to really get some real feedback and get some guidance, as opposed to just being told, no, we're just going to enforce and we don't have any real guidance for you. Built a team, built out a multi-token architecture where we have security tokens, utility tokens, identity tokens and whatnot. So people have the ability to invest with as little as $1,000 and then actually buy, sell, and trade their holdings in each specific asset that they choose to do so. And the kind of assets we list are stabilized and producing assets for the most part.
Nice. It's going to be, I'm excited by this idea of digitizing, like everybody who knows me on Blockchain Booze knows that I was like an early fan of crowdfunding and stuff like that. But crowdfunding for startups became kind of tough because if you weren't like a startup who had some kind of niche reason why crowdfunding was a good idea, like to raise money from your own users and things like that, the majority of the deals were just people who couldn't raise money in other places, and they ultimately failed. Real estate was the category where crowdfunding made the most sense, right? Because I don't need to know Joe or Mohsin to invest in their startup on the internet. Like when Joe, I said it backwards. If Joe or Mohsin said, hey, invest in my company on the internet, unless they're my friend or I know them because we were on Blockchain and Booze together or something like that, it's hard for me to make the leap of like, oh, well, yeah, I'm going to take $5,000 out of my savings account and invest in this guy's company on the internet. It was just one of those things where culturally we weren't there yet when all that stuff started. But I'll use this example. If my mom got a Facebook ad to invest in the building that her and her friends walk to Starbucks in every single morning and have their coffee in, and they go like, wow, for $5,000, I could own a piece of the building of the Starbucks that I walk to. That's something that you could sell on an ad on the internet, right? And so distribution made sense. But the problem with that is all of those real estate crowdfunding sites, especially for the average person can't put their money into some kind of long-term investment and just wait, right?
Yep.
Their car breaks down, they want to move, something happens and they need liquidity. And the problem with the real estate crowdfunding sites is you were a minority investor in a group of people who are probably a minority investor in the product. So you have no say in what happens when it gets recapitalized, when you might get liquidity. You just get your yield if you get a yield. And it's almost always less than what they would advertise because there was no transparency at all. and the deals weren't that great most of the time. And then you just waited, and sometimes 3 years later there'd be an announcement: congratulations, we sold the building, you invested $5,000, now here's your $5,800, right? And you were happy because you made money, and you got something back.
$800, right?
Yeah, but now there's crypto, right? And we can tokenize and fractionalize anything. And I can transfer and trade it between Joe and Mohsin and I 18,000 times in the span of this hour we're going to hang out together if we wanted to, right? Like we could be playing poker against each other, and every single hand transfer the money that the person won, right? And be sitting here for an hour and move the same $100 or the same $1 million all around. It would cost us the same, it would take the same effort, right? And so it doesn't make sense that something that's as valuable and something that's also as concrete, I didn't mean the pun, but like literally, like something that's as solid as real estate, that everyone has their idea of value and there's public information on the value, that wouldn't be able to trade hands that way. And so I was really excited when I met Mohsin, and he had kind of the ideas for liquidity behind what he was doing, the ability for people to, if they need to, sell the shares they have in these buildings and things like that in a way that no other crowdfunding site was able to do.
Yep.
And, have lower barriers to entry too.
Well, absolutely. Having the lower barrier to entry is absolutely key. So you touched on a few amazing points, right? The deal is always the deal. And the thing with real estate is, if you have verifiable, actionable data, you can actually value every aspect of the deal and at any given point in time, how good a deal it is. The fact that you have the ability to trade out of it as and when you want, whether your car breaks down or you need to move, or you've got to go go on a vacation, or whichever way. That's the unique part. Last year we had about 15 mil of equity placed on the platform. We have about 55,000 active accredited investors on our platform, registered accredited investors on our platform, and about 15 million plus of equity was placed on platform. Out of that 15 million, only $1.5 million is what traded on the secondary market in the last 12 months. And that $1.5 million, however, was able to settle very, very quickly. So in the time when someone listed a token for sale to the time that someone purchased it, and they were able to negotiate the price and get to an agreement and the transaction take place, was 8 hours. From a real estate transaction perspective, that's
wild.
That's crazy, right? So forget about 5 years, forget about even 6 months when you have a willing and able buyer and a seller, for just getting the entire debt piece together and everything. In 8 hours, from the time when you listed something, you have the cash for it in the transaction taking place. Obviously, the actual transaction only takes a few seconds, but just between the negotiations and whatnot, that's how long it's taking. So that's phenomenally fast, and that's the key part to it.
I think it's when I can look. I take a look at my portfolio on Lunar Crush now, and I see what's in all my wallets, and I look at Zerion to see certain things, and I look on OpenSea to see the NFTs or some other places to see the NFTs and stuff like that. And I look at it, and what's interesting is, I was a little bit bummed that we have to stick to accredited investors only for now on this stuff, but that'll change over time, I believe. By the way, people are asking what these are. They're Reg D offerings, right?
Yep, they are. Yeah. They're all Reg D 506C offerings.
Yeah,
we operate on a accredited investor only.
Yeah. Eric was hoping that they'd be some Reg CF. There are a couple real estate crowdfundings. I think one is called Small Change, if I remember correctly, that does Reg CF ones. But they're kind of what I said, like you're kind of stuck into a certain amount of time to hold, and I don't know if that's secondary. But there is a woman, off the top of my head, her name is Eve Picker, I think it is. And she's super smart, and she does those Reg CF offerings.
Yep.
Maybe we should have her on one day and talk about the traditional versus the tokenization, because she's sharp and she's really cool. But where I was going with this is, if I want to sell my NFTs and I have something that's more than just off the floor, right? Like if I think that my ape has the glasses that look like this that are called scumbag glasses, according to the Bored Ape thing, which I take offense to. Although I bought these to look like that, so maybe, you know, who knows.
So I should take offense to it, right? It's a similar.
I mean,
looking
yours are cooler than mine. Yours are like actual hip glasses. These are like the. What's funny is that one of the reasons I bought that ape is because I thought he looked like me. But my dad wore glasses just like this all the time for the last many years. And so I was like, oh, the ape's got glasses like my dad. And then I ended up getting, you know, some hipper, fancier version of pretty much the same thing my dad always wears. But going back to what I was saying is, like, if I go and I go, okay, I want, because he has scumbag glasses, I have no idea if this is true. I got to look. He's worth a slightly more than the floor of the rest of the apes. Maybe. I have no idea if that's true or not. I'm just throwing out an attribute. But let's say I believe that. If I go and put my ape for sale higher than the floor, it will probably take me longer to sell than if I take a piece of real estate on your platform and list it the way that you're explaining. But if you talked to people about the process, they'd probably think that the ape thing is faster. And apes are probably... we'd have to confirm this and look at some numbers, but are probably the most liquid of all of the NFT assets. Maybe not because the price is high and there's maybe mutants or something are a little more liquid. I'm not sure, but at the end of the day, that's a really interesting thing because we've got to the point now with your platform that real estate is just as fast to trade.
Yep, absolutely.
Even only for accredited investors. That's really cool. What do you think, Joe? You know, I think we're a little ways away, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think that most crypto traders are not necessarily legally accredited investors or verifiably accredited investors quite yet. But how do you feel about that sort of meme or that idea of, like, you know, swap your gains into some real estate, right? Like, is that, you think that makes sense?
I think it makes sense. And to your first point, I don't know a single trader that's an accredited investor, maybe one, you know, but yeah, everyone's just kind of a garage band that got famous, you know. And as far as the idea, I think parking your money in a more risk averse space is definitely something a lot of traders need. And as far as money management, let's say, well, a lot of us think in terms of money management, the US dollar, right? But at points like this in time, what's safe? Nothing is safe. I have no idea what is safe anymore. Bitcoin is probably unsafe if you're a seller right now, but the dollar certainly isn't safe if you're planning to hold your money for 5 years or 10 years. You know, there's that one saying Michael Saylor said, it's not about moving money from Bitcoin let's say from LA to Hong Kong. It's about moving your money from 2023 to 2050. And that's the big problem. So I can definitely see value in something that has a good track record, such as real estate, especially if you know how to manage the space and you know you've been in it for quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I feel with all this stuff, because I feel like any US dollar or fiat exposure any of us have is like the exposure we have to live our lives, because we live in the real world, you know, for now, until our magical internet money pretend world becomes the real world, which is happening faster than I think anyone expects it to. And so we have that exposure just in everyday life. And we have that exposure against those currencies in whatever real estate we do have, right? Like whether you live in a condo or anything else, or even rent, because at the end of the day, when the dollar value goes down, everybody's rent goes up, right? Even if you don't own, you are beholden to inflation and cost of living and everything else.
Exactly why real estate is always there to save you, and it's always a safe bet.
So where I'm going at is, you know, I think because I'm really long, I think, Joe, you're right. If you're a seller, you need the cash. Bitcoin is scary as hell, and so is Ethereum, so is most of crypto, because it's so volatile compared to the dollar that you need to live your everyday life. But if you're holding long, you know, I think having a mix of some real estate, and I need to take some of that own advice, because I don't have any outside of where I live. I don't have any real estate holdings, full disclosure. That's going to change soon, because I'm going to start doing some of these moves on Accrue. I think I'm literally going to do that. Like if I sell anything that's crypto related, like an NFT or something, I'm going to take half of whatever gains there are and just start putting it into the bucket of real estate. Why not?
It took me quite a few times to attend blockchain and boost to get Alon and DGH to invest in a crew. I guess I need to start doing that again to make sure you can start investing on
if
crew
you
platforms.
you need to just start sending me links to the various buildings and things like that are going up. And if you catch me on the right day, like, you know, I got airdropped something and I sold it, and then I just go, ooh, maybe instead of the ETH savings account, I
put in a real world asset. Yeah.
You know, the beauty of this space, you know, that I think is really interesting, and I bring this up quite a bit on different calls and things like that. Most of the people who started, right? Like Joe, you came in, you said 2017, did some interesting thing. Mohsin, you came in early and somehow it turned into, you know,
one trade very early. Nothing more
but,
than that.
But because of that one trade, you start paying attention and you have the crazy ass idea to go to people and say, we're going to tokenize this real estate. You don't have to do that. You could have continued buying and selling real estate with a fund and not complicated the shit out of it, right? But you're seeing the future and seeing what's going on. You wouldn't have seen that if you didn't participate and see what was happening. And where I'm getting with this is even the goofing around that was done in the 2015, 16, 17 times for me. And I really didn't buy real crypto like until probably 2016. I did an experiment in 2013. The only thing I have to show for it, because that laptop is long gone, and whatever Litecoin it was right after Litecoin launched, because we couldn't have enough processing power even back then to mine enough Bitcoin to make it worth our while. So we tried to mine Litecoin, and that's long gone. The only thing I have as proof of that is screenshots of transactions on Amazon of buying graphics cards. And I think I have one picture from our office back then where underneath our TV, there was a milk crate with a motherboard and all the graphics cards lined up and a box fan up against it to blow the air through. It heated the hell out of our office. And that's the only proof I have. But when I finally bought some crypto and I started participating and goofing around, you'd get a random airdrop. Then, you know, over quarantine, my son is making NFTs and I tell him to buy an ENS domain. We bought poo-poo.eth and we did this and we did that. And then all of a sudden ENS airdropped something. And all of a sudden there's this airdrop and that airdrop. And what's interesting about this space is you're constantly kind of rewarded for your participation early. Whether or not, like, most of the things that made me get those airdrops were probably things that were more of a money suck than they gave me, right? I probably lost money participating in most of those things, but I wasn't participating trying to, you know, I'm you know, a more technical nerd that like I was playing around in the GitHubs and doing these things. But what I'm getting at is I think there is a great, you know, the more we participate, the more your Paul says ordinals. Be careful. There's a lot of hype there. When there's too much FOMO, I get so scared because someone has to be left holding the hot potato. You got to be careful. But what I'm saying is, you know, participating and playing is really interesting, and I think that's going to happen too with even. If not, like, there isn't some kind of airdrop something. I'm not alluding to anything like that, like in relation to buying real estate or a crew or anything like that. But I think that the people who are willing to participate and experiment a little more are going to get rewarded in a different way than maybe we get rewarded by playing with NFTs or trading, stuff like that. Joe, getting back to kind of what your charting and stuff like that. Can you tell us a little bit about Embly and what Embly does? Is that part of the signals in the charts and the things like that? And then I would love to know your feelings on the craziness of the NFT market and stuff like that in relation to trading.
I have a pretty simple opinion about the NFT markets. And I'll start there because it's real simple. I guess it's debatable though, for sure. I see it as a simple supply and demand curve. If you make something digital, and I excluding the block hash, that doesn't mean, you know, trash to me. That's all trash. You know, if you make a digital image that can be infinitely replicated, there is no scarcity. Equilibrium price is zero. So to me, it's actually just an immature market that doesn't understand they're paying money for things that are actually valued at zero. But, you know, we can debate that for sure, because obviously I would see, this is the thing. I do believe that there is a counter argument. if I was playing Fortnite and there were 100 Rick and Morty skins, and if you had, and it was verifiable on a blockchain, you can only trade it by transacting that skin with another individual for some sort of agreed upon value. Well, now I have digital scarcity, right? But this, if you say, hey, I just bought this, you post your tweet, hey, I bought this picture, I own the hash of this NFT. Well, I can just copy that. I can make it the background of my cell phone, the background of my computer. I can have it printed, and I can have 30 images around my house. So to me, there isn't the same valuable nature of, let's say, having the actual hand-painted art done by Van Gogh himself. That's more of an NFT to me. That's something that no one else is going to experience the true nature of that individual asset. Whereas anyone with the digital image is going to have exactly the same thing minus the alphanumeric code. So that's my position. But again, if this was talking, hey, I have a blue car in this Call of Duty game, and this is the only blue in the world, well, that's scarcity. That's true scarcity. At least in that digital realm, that is true scarcity. So that's my take, and I will love to circle back and hear your thoughts, and I can make Embly pretty quick for you here. I wanted to, I'll pull out my Embly card. Embly is a refillable prepaid debit card. So we all have crypto, right? A lot of people in the space know what's up, and they all have a bag somewhere. So Embly is a card where what you do is you set up a username and account, etc., and you get a card like this in the mail. And this is our metal model. This is a 35-gram metal card, and you can deposit Bitcoin, Ethereum, a couple stable coins, and you can be swiping this anywhere in the world. So you can travel across the world. Your Bank of America goes down. You're trying to spend it in Africa, and you can't, right? And you just send some Bitcoin and 3 confirmation Ethereum. 3 minutes, 5 minutes later, you will have those funds available to swipe right now. So it's a very good product. I think it's, whether you're a diamond hand hodler or a trader who needs to pull profits into dollars, whatever the case is. Is it separate from those networks, or is it on those networks? And if those networks go down, you could still send the ETH or Bitcoin, or is it just separate? It's like a hardware wallet in a card. Yeah. So there's a hardware wallet, and I guess it's not quite a hardware wallet in a card, but it is a hardware wallet. And then when they so choose, they send to a master liquidation address, let's say. And then that once we can verify, okay, this wallet has sent Bitcoin to get liquidated. And let's just keep saying Bitcoin, but let's just say $100 worth of Bitcoin to get liquidated or crypto. Then we'll be able to say, all right, it's been propagated to a block. Now we can get ready to move the money, and a couple confs later, then we're in business. And so you then it's like, I'm trying to think. So if I have the card and I have some Bitcoin on it, and I'm anywhere in the world, I connect to my phone or a laptop, I liquidate $100 worth of my Bitcoin, and then it's automatically put into whatever bank account I had pre-signed up to do. So it's like let's just say not a bank account, because this is more of a on-the-go type thing, a refillable prepaid debit card. So it goes to that debit card. It goes now I can use it wherever, like the world. I forgot what it's called. Exactly. That one, not MasterCard or Visa. It's that one other one that's around the world. Oh, I can't think of the name here, but yeah, that's the concept. It's an installation from your other accounts. I'm sure we've all had issues with buying cryptocurrency, and the bank now doesn't want to do something because we have a high risk kind of scenario going on. So it's just it's an installation account in a way. Your money is accessible very fast, and it's eliminating that wait period where I would send my crypto to, let's say, Coinbase for lack of a better exchange here, and go through all that. Yeah, because if it's a new account, if it's certain things, you have all these waiting periods, all this stuff, and that makes sense. That's really cool. Nice. And where's the weirdest place in the world you've been able to use it so far? Oh, well, I mean, I've used it in quite a few places, but the place that sticks out the most is some shady taco stand in Mexico. I was like, there's no way. A shady taco stand in Mexico that accepts credit card. Yeah, well, yeah. It's it's somehow like I didn't even see a wire around, so I was like, there's no way this little, their little point of sale system is going to work. And I saw it go through. It's all mobile now, I guess, right? It's all like versions of Stripe and stuff like that. So or Square, I mean, and that makes sense.
I guess it's been a while, but when I grew up, we would go to Baja California, drive over the border and go to a few little towns and get tacos. But those were all cash transactions. But I'm talking about 20 years ago, so I'm old. That's really, really cool. I love that. So, getting yes, taco crypto. That's right. Adele. So, it's interesting to me. I like kind of going from, you do trading and now you have that sort of debit card, which I think is very cool because there is more opportunities and options with that. Do you have any reporting requirements or anything like that on, like, if my card liquidates $100 worth of ETH right now, and you fill up my card with $100, is my card tied to my name, or is it kind of like a prepaid debit card, like the Amex ones you buy at point of sale at a supermarket or something?
Yeah, it depends. Pretty much, in order to get a card, you need to go through KYC and so forth. The regulations are pretty standard across the world now. It used to be, for a while, we were operating through a bank out of Hong Kong, and the laws were a little different. I think up to, let's say, $500 a day or something like that. At the time, you probably didn't need much more than a driver's license. Up to 10,000 a day, let's say something like 10,000 a week, you probably needed a passport. So it does scale in certain areas, but in somewhere like the USA, and which we're still waiting on the product launch because unfortunate circumstances really delayed us. But in the US, KYC is basically the flat across the board. Yeah. KYC is KYC. So this in the States, KYC, and for the most part, KYC.
Cool. Yeah. So to get the card originally, you have to do KYC, but once it's set up and everything, so that they know who's making the transactions and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it makes sense. It's just how products are, and you're using those old school rails. And until I doubt it's going to happen in a meaningful way in the short term, but until lots of peer-to-peer style payments are happening at taco stands, we're still going to need to use the old school rails or cash. And to get cash in most places, we need the old school rails. If you get paid like a normal person and all that. So, but it is interesting. I mean, there's a lot culturally changing about that. If we think about it though, like a lot of people switching to using Venmo and products like that for cash, right? Like you go out to lunch nowadays and people are going, oh, just send me $20 on Venmo or whatever. And that didn't really exist back in the day. It was like, next time I see you, I'll give you a $20 bill, or I'm buying lunch this time, you buy lunch next time. It seems like that's just kind of happening a lot more often. And if the younger generation is doing that, what's the difference of swapping, using a different app that just transfers the value direct peer-to-peer versus using something like Venmo? I think it'll get interesting. I'm sure that governments will try to crack down on those apps if they get enough popularity. But if they're using a network that they don't, something like Bitcoin or Lightning or Ethereum or any of the crypto networks that they don't control, what's the reporting requirements of an app that uses Stripe, right? Like Stripe is the one that needs to do the reporting, not the app. So it's interesting. It's a cool topic and idea. Where can people get those cards if they're interested?
Simply at embly.com, EMBILY.com. The product is currently available in 26 countries in Europe, and we are launching in Singapore, the US. Unfortunately, that FTX nuke kind of dissolved a lot of the trust between that financial system, the traditional financial architecture, and ours, right? Our neo financial system. So there's a little bit of rebuilding to do. I have my work cut out. But embly.com, if you're in one of our approved countries, you can get the card pretty much in a couple days. And it's, again, I find it to be pretty useful whether you use it or not. If you're stuck, this is the prime example. At the beginning of COVID, people were stuck in different parts of the world, and their Bank of America stopped working. Calls were going through, but not, they were on hold for hours. It was the Embly card that people had to rely on to pay rent or the hotel room, pay for some food for the week or two that they needed to hold over until they got back to the States, back home. So yeah, it's a good product. I think you'll all enjoy it, and hopefully improvements to come. Just we need
Cool.
to
Very cool. Yeah, keep us updated for sure, and let's have you back as you do that. And then, you know, I was gonna put in the chat also, the reason why I didn't put a crew up is because Mohsin has it in his bio right there, but I'm throwing it into the chat as well, accrue.co for Mohsin. We still got some time, and I'm interested kind of, you know, I wanted to take your bait and go down the NFT rabbit hole for a minute, but I don't know. You know, I think if you're buying an NFT solely for the JPEG, you're probably doing it wrong, right? If there is, though, I think reasons to buy fine art this way, right? You kind of, what you might have access to as the wallet holder is some high resolution potential images that may not be available publicly. Still pretty easy to steal and copy, but you're still the original owner. You're still the main person that owns it, right? And there's value to that. But I think that the best NFT opportunities, at least when it comes to scarcity and things like that, are ones that are gamified in some way that includes something beyond the JPEG. So I won't fully go down that rabbit hole, other than, you know, thinking about how CDs came about, and CDs were digital, and we all were pirating and things like that until it became, you know, I don't know if the right word is socially acceptable, but it became the norm to buy a song. When Apple first launched like the iTunes library or whatever it was called at the beginning, I don't think it was called Apple Music. It was freaking weird, and it was a crazy ass idea to spend 99 cents or $1 on a song. Like, nobody did that. It didn't make any sense to any of us. But the combination of hardware and how they did it and the user experience made it totally normal. And so I think to most of us, it still feels that way with like NFTs, right? Like, we look at it and like, you know, it's weird. But I think there's also, I think the average person of us might buy a beautiful photograph at a gallery or at like some place to put on our wall, but we don't necessarily think of the rarity of that photograph or anything like that. And we don't think of it as a collectible in the same way we think of a baseball card or a comic book or something like that. By making it digital, people start thinking about it as a collectible and thinking about it differently. And I think that's only good for artists, right? I think it's gonna long-term be great, but you're probably right when you think of it just a surface JPEG. But for things that we look at and think that about, we're probably not the right person for it too. Or that NFT community or campaign didn't do the right, didn't explain it to us right? Like,
yeah.
They didn't, you know.
Like, a huge counterpoint to what I said is that the Oasis concept. Have you seen Ready Player One?
Yes.
Like that is 100% a scenario where someone can have a unique, scarce object. Even in the movie itself, the guy buys an expensive bomb or something like that, right? Some sort of video game asset, and it's scarce, and he has to pay more money for it. That's absolutely a scenario, an Oasis, a digital world where digital assets are scarce. That makes a ton of sense.
But here's the thing: you're thinking of it through the lens of like the video games you would play and like some clout you might have or some special feature. Our children think of the whole world in that digital way, that we only think about certain things that we get sucked into in that way. Like my kids, like here, I explained this to somebody the other day because I fell down this rabbit hole, and I said I wasn't going to go down the rabbit hole. We're going down the rabbit hole. Mohsin, we're going to move into metaverse real estate in a second if I keep this up. But my kids love playing Roblox, like 90% of kids that are elementary school age right now. And I was getting hounded to play a particular game every Saturday morning for like 3 Saturdays in a row, because they do an update every Saturday morning. And if I'm online during the update, I get the rare egg. And if I get the rare egg, I can hatch the rare pet. And if I have the rare pet, I can trade it with my friends and get these diamonds and then buy the next egg to get the next pet. And I'm like, sounds like crypto trading and NFTs and things like that to me. Like, it sounds exactly what we're doing. But the first week I actually joined him, like every once in a while I play the games with them. And then I somehow get sucked into these games. Like I'll catch myself at night on the couch, like playing these Roblox games. It's kind of embarrassing, but I own it now. But what was crazy is that the first Saturday morning I did it with him, I realized there's 1 million concurrent users of this game playing it right now on Saturday morning to get that egg. And I was like, holy fuck, this is crazy. Imagine if one single crypto product that existed today had 1 million concurrent users on a random day. It would blow our whole freaking industry out of the water. Like it would destroy anything, any records of users in our industry completely out of water. And then the next weekend, I went online and was going to join him. And my son was complaining that Roblox isn't working. So I go onto Twitter and I'm like, why isn't Roblox working? Is anybody talking about this? All these people are freaking out, pissed off at this game because they're like, every Saturday when they do an update, Roblox has problems because they can't handle the amount of people. And then I start looking and I realize like on one of these Saturdays, Roblox hit an all-time high of over 10 million concurrent users because the 1 million people playing that game is only one game out of hundreds on Roblox, right? It's like saying 1 million people play Super Mario Brothers, but there's another 100 Nintendo games they could be playing right now. And there's 9 million more people playing those other games. And then I started looking at daily active users and it's something like 40 something million. And I started going like, that's more people than watch NFL on an average Sunday. And I started like realizing how early we are. But every single one of these kids understands a digital economy in a way we never understood. And what's crazy is some of these games are not actually games. They're literally just worlds you go and play in. And you might be a wolf in one of them. And then you go and you talk to other people who are wolves and you make up your own game. You're literally playing make-believe. It's not like I click a thing and I get to be Joe's brother. I literally go, hey, Joe, I like your sparkly fur. Would you like to be my son in the game? And Joe goes, no, leave me alone. And you go, okay, hey, Mohsin, would you like to be my son in the game? Sure. And then you start going together. And like they're literally just playing make-believe in these digital worlds and they pay money or spend time to earn rewards to get different color furs, to get different eggs, to get different this or that or whatever. And you realize that we're so insanely early. Oh, David knows. David Rankin just commented, we're so early. He has kids the right age. It's bonkers, right? It's absolutely nuts because we think of it, you're thinking about it through the lens of playing Call of Duty or something like that, or one of the games that you grew up playing. And I look at it through the lens of, playing those games that I grew up with, or I look at like comic book cards because I would collect Marvel Masterpiece comic book cards when I was a kid. And that's the lens I look at through. But our kids, they want to buy the Roblox toys at Target. The physical toys go in their closet and never come out ever again. They take that little thing, they scratch it off, they redeem whatever virtual thing is, and they use that every day. Yeah. And they care about that so much more.
Let me reword what I said after what you said here. The market analyst to me is hearing something very simple, and that is it doesn't matter what the asset is, Pokemon cards, marbles, if there's a demand, then the asset moves, right? And so if kids see this as scarcity, I'm just going to reword my whole argument and say, yo, you're 100% right. There's demand. I don't care what the asset is. Yeah. It's going to make money. I totally understand your point now. I don't get it. I'm an old man talking trash on Pokemon cards 20 years ago. That's all I am right now. So I understand that I don't understand, but there's demand. That's it.
It's really nuts because if like you get to these weird things, right? Like, well, there was this one. This would be an interesting thing to bring in real estate into the mix too. But there was this study, I don't know, it was a few years ago, but it was something like if you went to you took the average ages, and as you go down in age, and you ask people, if I give you $1,000 in Bitcoin or $1,000 in cash right now, which one would you take? And the lower you got in age, the more people would say Bitcoin, until something like, 19 or 20-year-olds would be somewhere at like 50-50, right? And then it's an interesting idea because if you go to the average kid at my kid's school, I bet, and you told them, I'll give you $50 or not even $50 worth of Robux to play Roblox, but like you go like, I'll give you $20 worth of Robux or a $50 bill, they would probably take the $20 worth of Robux every single time, because it sounds like a bigger number too, because it's like, that's like, I don't know, 20,000 Robux or something, whatever. I don't know the number. It's like maybe 2,000 Robux. But like, it's pretty bonkers, you know, the way different age groups and generations look at these things. But we just need to teach them that you can, when you're able to, because you can't do it with Robux yet. When they're able to, we just need to teach them how to swap between the assets and play the markets and play the games, because
how to hedge your bets, you know, make sure you got some safe assets, some real estate investments.
Right now they're in the, let's swap everything into Robux and never worry about getting out of Robux. And I'm trying to go like, no. But it would be interesting. Like, I wonder if you start telling people 10 grand worth of cash, 10 grand worth of real estate, 10 grand worth of Bitcoin, what are people taking in this market? I really don't know exactly. I would totally, you know, it would be tough to know, but I think the safest short-term bet is real estate. The safest long-term bet is probably real estate too. But if you really believe in Bitcoin, it would be a toss-up for me. I would say Bitcoin if I'm holding 10 plus years, but I have enough, so I should get some real estate.
10x your money. Is it going to be real estate, Bitcoin, or dollars to 10x your money? The simple answer to me, no offense to real estate, I think that's going to certainly safe. But for the,
you're right. If you're saying, if you're safe 100% real estate, if you want to 10x your money, you're definitely the last on the list would be fiat. I mean.
Look, you've got to diversify your portfolios, right? In order to get to that 10x, you don't want to risk it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, you can 10x your money for sure if you have on the inflation side. No, but on the real estate side, it's all about you're diversifying your portfolio. No one's saying put 100% of your money into real estate, or no one, you know, that wouldn't be the right thing to do. It's just like putting 100% of whatever equity you have into even into Bitcoin, because it's a cyclical market. It is going to go up and it is going to go down with an eventual upward trend. But you know, that's where early venture comes in as well, right?
Wait, I have a thought now, because Ben just said something interesting, and it's pretty true. He said 1/10x your money if it's fiat, and if you believe that, then some real estate in a good city or in a stable place, the value probably would 10x, because the value is probably going up in proportion and more, hopefully, than inflation, right?
Yeah.
Is it correlated like that? Is there like a reverse correlation? Because otherwise, is somebody making some kind of betting market against fiat so you can get 10x with, you know, by betting? So
real estate acts as a direct hedge against inflation, right? So anytime you see more inflation, just what you were talking about,
is it directly correlated?
If you don't know, it is inversely correlated. Yeah, absolutely. So the more inflation you have, the higher the value of the real estate goes, more, because your rents are going to go higher. Your cost, your income is going to go higher on that. And as a result, you know, on an overall trend perspective, the value of the real estate literally goes higher and higher year on year. I think last year at the Security Token Summit, I was going over this, like, just in a matter from 2018 to 2021, value of real estate had gone up like 6x or something like that.
Incomes generally have to go up. Yeah, David just said almost something similar. He said about location and zoning correlates with inflation and incomes. Incomes don't usually go up as fast as inflation, right? So it doesn't catch up. But does rent catch up? I mean, it's a little bit scary at the same time, because if inflation.
So anytime you have a recession, while the value of the asset may not be going up, and you may be in a downward trend on the value of the asset, your rental income is still going up higher and higher. So the best performing assets are during a economic downturn are going to be the ones that are bringing in some stabilized cash flows, right? So the low risk, higher cash flowing assets are the ones that are going to save you every single time from a real estate transaction perspective.
Yeah.
And that's where the hedge really
But
comes
do
in.
you end up having more defaulting and problems and things like that? Because if there's hyperinflation and then, like.
So if I was to talk purely on the multifamily side or just the rental property side where people have to live, when people are defaulting on the or going into foreclosures on their homes and they're being pushed out of their homes, they need a place to live. Someone who has a $2 million house or a $5 million house in
Let's
part
go
of
more.
LA.
Let's go more average. Like
No,
even
they need to move
actually
into.
what's crazy is Adele said that it was like in the 70s average was like 25K. Now it's something like 425K.
Yeah,
Let's say you
exactly.
live the average in the country 500K home, and you're getting foreclosed on. You go and move.
You still need a place to live, right? You're getting
right.
foreclosed on. You still need a roof over your head, and that's where the rental markets go up, and that's what we saw throughout 2008, 9, and 10. I was very actively investing in the U.S. market in 2009, 10, and 11 in the multifamily and single family space. I accidentally came into the single family space because of the non-performing portfolios that we were buying from some of the local credit unions included a whole bunch of single-family properties as well, and that's what we saw. We acquired those, we fixed them up, and as soon as we put renters in there, they were long-term renters. They were not going anywhere. They needed a roof on their head. They were not able to go and purchase another house, and you had a very large number of folks that were going upside down on their average home. Even if it was for their second home or their third home, it all came back to their primary residence as well. And that's why real estate really always, and I've seen this happen in the last 2 cycles, to say the least, if not 3. Real estate is always that perfect hedge where no matter if the economy is going downwards, and you have stabilized assets. And I reiterate that again and again. If you're in a development deal, you're going to get screwed. If you're highly levered in a stabilized or a development deal, you're going to be in trouble. But if you're in a stabilized income producing asset that's throwing out decent income, you're going to see that rent growth take place.
Do you guys on accrued distribute that income
every quarter? Yep. So every quarter. Yep. So we distribute 95% of free cash flow. So we retain a reserve on 5%, and 95% of it gets distributed. And we distribute cash flow. We do quarterly distributions. So you not only do you see that gain.
Do you think over time with technology and stuff like that, you can make that process happen more often and more regular? And then does that change the kind of like pricing model for people who want to sell, liquidate, for example? Like if I know I'm coming up to the quarter, maybe I hold for a moment. Yeah. And if I'm right after distribution, maybe I have to sell for a lower price. It's going to be 3 months until there's a distribution. I'm thinking of it maybe too short term, but is that
that's something that kind of plays into the pricing model, right? So if you're selling the day after the distribution, you're taking a basic economics. You're taking the largest discount. If you're selling a day before the distribution, you're taking the smallest discount on that, right? But that's just a matter of discount. The discount that would get applied purely because of the possible distribution or that's coming out. So from a technology perspective and an efficiency perspective, we could do it on a monthly basis as well, or on a daily basis, right? But practically speaking, rents are collected every month, and they're collected mostly between the 1st and the 7th of the month. No matter what kind of asset it is, that's where you're going to get about 90% of your rent collections. You have to balance out your accounting. You have to get all your expenses out. So you want to wait at least 15 or 20 days before you can do that. And by the time you're getting done with the first month, you're already in the middle of month 2. So and on $1,000 investment, even if your return is 10% on an annualized basis, or 12% on an annualized basis, you're just going to be getting $10 a month if that's what you get. So you want to make sure that it is a sizable. It does accumulate to something as well, right? So the average investment on our platform is about $10,500, right? So that 12% on $10,000 means people are going to be getting about $100 a month So at the end of 3 months, someone's getting $350 or so.
Yeah, but if I get that $100 a month, flip it into some ape and stake it, and I'm just
yeah, you can flip it into whatever and try and stake it. I can guarantee you're getting better cash yield.
I can be earning yield along the way, right? Or I can, if I get to a certain point and there's a liquid enough market and whatever, every month I could be taking even small amounts and putting it back into more assets or something, right? I'm being a bit, I'm goofing around, but I think it's kind of true. And the more you do it, and also assets that we did have, I wonder if he's been on here. You know, I've got to have him on. I mentioned him last time we talked security tokens too, but David Wield, he was the former vice chairman of NASDAQ, and he's one of like the creators in a sense of like the Jobs Act and crowdfunding rules and laws that we have today. And he said something that was interesting about calculating interest in distributions and things like that. One of the times we talked to him, I don't think it was on here, but we should have him on. I'll send him a note. You know, he said that when he was doing the bond markets, and he's had a long career, he's got some gray hairs, he's older than us. He said, you know, when bonds went from calculating annually to calculating quarterly, they started trading at a premium. Then when they moved to monthly, they would trade even at a higher premium. And we're talking about, you know, like a few percentage points difference in price. And so if you distribute more often, you can potentially inflate the value of something because there's a cash flow that's more regular, right? It's just an interesting idea. And I think in this world where we're like instant gratification, I like seeing number go up. I like, and it doesn't have to be dollar value, just shares or you know, tokens, right? Like I really like that. I think most of us really do, especially if we're super long. So maybe there's an option to receive your distributions in more ownership of the asset, right? And then maybe I'll take a discount, like give me half of the interest, but give me more of the asset every month. I don't know, like maybe there's some like a pool you could buy as a crew, like 5% of the building. Adele said, number of falafels must go up. Yeah, because we've talked about this in the past. We were talking about I still think hummus is a better idea, but we're gonna have to argue this many different ways. Or you know, anyway, I'm not going to go there, but we're kind of out of time, but I do want to give a chance for a last plug. And Joe, since you kind of watch the markets and things like that, I don't trade. I'm not going to trade on it, but I will watch. If you have a call or something that you think is a fun thing we should all take a look at, maybe if anyone makes some profits, they flip it into some real estate, in remembrance of this episode of Blockchain and Booze. Joe, you got any calls or anything interesting we should be looking at?
Long story short, I think what we're doing is repeating the April 2nd, 2019 move that started us off at 3K, ended us off at 14K. That was about a 70% move from the low to the high relative to the $20,000 high. Basically, just for a rinse repeat formula, I'm looking at this move to take us up in the next 2 to 3 months, somewhere around $50,000. And then we're probably looking at a long, drawn-out descending triangle, a couple weird black swans, and probably going to end up back in the teens. So everyone that feels like they're too late to the boat, they missed the 17, 18, 19K wagon, you did, and you probably missed it for at least 8 months. It'll probably come back.
I'm excited for this. I love the roller coaster ride. I mean, I'm going to hold what I hold, and it's all going to be fun and games, but does that mean, does it do the same thing like with the alts and stuff? So do the alts like move even crazier and it, you know, alongside this because of it?
Well, we're also going to get the launch of new altcoin products. You know, there's going to be a handful of launches. There's going to be reasons for altcoins to pump. So absolutely, I do expect that to even see new all-time highs for some of these altcoins. Bitcoin, we're still just debating whether or not we're going to hit an all-time high in the next year. Certainly debatable. The altcoins, at least a handful of them, let's say like Hex, for example, where you have Pulse Chain launching, Pulse Chain testnet v3, and then maybe after that, we're probably going to see a Hex all-time high. We're probably going to see Pulse do unimaginable things. So we see this happen with Mimble Coin last time with the handful of stuff.
I have lots of questions that I know are not sophisticated and not great. So we do have to do another hang session where I have like John or Joe from Lunar Crush on, because they're like my wingmen when it comes to asking these questions, and they'll ask you all sorts of interesting things. And I would love to do it. I'd love to get your opinion too on just start looking at that Lunar Crush data and playing around and telling me if it factors into some of your decisions moving forward. I like it. It's lunarcrush.com.
Okay.
CRUSH. Oh, here, I got it right here. Oh, lunarcrush.com. I got all these.
Crew.co up there too, man. That's what you got.
Let's do it. Hold on. I got these, all these old things here. I got premium. Okay, here, I'm going to edit this really quick and put accrue.co, accrue.co for Mohsin. But we did have you at the bottom already, and I shared it on Twitter and in the chat and everywhere else, so everyone has seen it.
I appreciate it. Yeah,
but it's fun.
Absolutely.
It's fun here. Look, so here I put Embly earlier, and I put accrue. Guys, I really appreciate your time. I know we went over time, so I appreciate it. I'm loving that we had a great day today. I'm looking at Bitcoin at 24,617 right now, so that's pretty great, pretty exciting. We've seen almost 10% up Ethereum. Good stuff. This is it's a good day. So let's keep it going. Whatever everyone is doing, keep doing that. And let's have some fun together. I appreciate all of you. We're gonna have Mohsin. I think for both of you guys, we're gonna have more deep dive into those topics over the next few weeks. I think we definitely need to do more trading talk. And then I know we're having some security token deep dives and a few, I talked to a blockchain today building specifically for security tokens. So we're going to have them on, and nice. I would love to have you as my wingman on that one too. So, but guys, thank you so much. For the rest of you watching on one of the streams, if you want to turn on your camera in a minute, blockchainboost.io, it'll redirect you to the DGH events site. And you'll be able to have some, like things like R3 and some of those groups that are doing the blockchains specifically for enterprise. But this one is more of a startup blockchain. But thanks, guys. Cheers. I appreciate all your times. Joe, it was great to meet you. Mohsin, great to see you again, and we'll see you all soon. Likewise. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.